Hi, this is Jenny, crafttestdummies.com, and today I'm going to take a little look at the Ken Oliver Liquid Metals watercolors. Now, those of you who maybe have had the color burst and love them, this is cool. These are different. When they say liquid metals, it's because the product itself is liquid. So I just got these from Amazon. I've used the powdered, but I haven't used these before. So I thought it would be really fun for us to take a little look and see how they work on watercolor paper, Yupo, and maybe traditional cardstock. So it looks a lot like the color burst packaging, except these are sloshy. They're actually liquid. So I was just having a little conversation with our foreign exchange student from Thailand about how watercolors kind of work. So I gave her a little demo and I pulled these out and I went, what? I haven't done these yet. So what I'm going to do now is take a minute, flip the camera around and get set up, and we will start playing and checking these out in different fashions. Okay? Alrighty. Give it my drinking water. All right, so we're going to start with the saffron. Oh, no, let's start with there's an orange, a rose, a purple. Okay, let's start with this pretty Mandarin color. By the way, it's a half a fluid ounce. These are meant to be drips, Mama Allen. So you can either mix them and use them diluted or drip them right on. So it says shake vigorously before each use. Metals may settle quickly. So I will go ahead and give it a drippy drop. Whoop. And just so you know, it comes out pretty quick. It's fairly liquid. And what I see here is a beautiful orange coral color with a gold shimmer in it. And I'm just going to use my finger to spread it around. That has a beautiful color concentration and a high concentration of the sparkly bits. And you can see it here. It's still wet, but I think you can still see the golden shimmer here. Now, one of the things I always ask myself is, what kind of shimmer does it have? Is the shimmer actually gold, silver, what? And this looks like it has a gold. So let's go ahead and we'll do like this. Drip, drip. That's about 2 drops worth. I'm going to use the same finger because I wiped it off a little bit. And I kind of spreading it together. It does, yes, it's water-based, it's watercolor. Spready spread. Wash off my finger. Let's try some green. I do like to work them into each other so I can see how they blend and mix. Woo! Come on now. There we go. So you can see how concentrated that is. Let me use a dry finger. And then it kind of spreads out a little bit. Get my paper towel handy. And, oh, by the way, that is called Metallic Jade. This is called Metallic Sky. Boop. There we go. It doesn't want to let go. And, ooh, that's a pretty color, right? Get a little blendy action over there. And lastly, the purple. Okay, I see the fear going away. I'm thankful that I do this because it helps you try new things. It is just, they're liquid drops. And there we go. So there you can see the full array of colors. Mandarin, saffron, jade, hold on, jade, sky. Oh, I forgot the rose. Let's do the rose. I'll do the rose over here. Sorry, I forgot one. I knew I was missing one. And here is the rose color. Now, these colors are not what I would consider primaries. They are very kind of pastel. The purple is very pretty, but like this is definitely a pink and not a bright red, right? A little does seem to go a long way. And what I'll be doing next is just putting some water down and seeing how they spread out with the tip of a wet, clean brush. Let's clean this one off. This is kind of a big brush. Okay. Which paper is this? This is watercolor paper. Mama Allen, thank you for asking. It's the Hungry Caterpillar. You are correct, ma'am. Absolutely. Okay. So now what I have is some water on the brush, and I'm just going to pull straight down just to see how much we blend out. And wow, this is super reactive. It loves to blend out. Paintball God says I have a pretty voice. Well, thank you so much. But now I'm going to mess it up. Okay, again, here's a little bit of wet, and I'm just going to pull it straight down so you can see how much is willing to move. Now that was drier. Let's do this again. There we go. And by the way, there is a method to my madness too, because I am going to be dripping some colors into the wet to see how they disperse. Isn't that fun? I do get the fun jobs, I have to tell you. The purple really likes to move. Okay. So you need to know which ones are more, what's the word, more concentrated than the others maybe. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and drip that in there. And drip a drip a drip. Now this doesn't have a whole lot in the package. It's only a half. Oop, that was 2 drips. Sorry guys. I was going to ask if you can spray water on it. I'm going to do that next. So first of all, I'm seeing how it reacts in the little bit of wet pool that I have, because there is. But notice how, even though this is still very shiny and very wet, I think it has such a high mica content that it sits a little bit. Have you mixed Color Burst and spray bottle? And if so, did you like it? I really haven't, I have to be honest, because I use the powdered color because it's powdered. How does it compare to the metallic water I got from Michaels? Oh, that's a good question. What brand did you get from Michaels? All right, you ready? So now I'm going to spray all of this with water, okay? Now, from when I put it down, I can see, maybe you can too, can you see the particulate here? There is, over here, I can see some of the particulate has started to kind of settle, and then a little bit of the color has leached out. Okay, Melissa, let me know if you can find that name. And then the same thing has happened here. So you can see like a ring of metallic, and then some of the color has leached, and these have spread a little bit. This does feel very opaque. We're going to do an opacity test in just a minute. Okay, so now I'm spraying just because I do want to see how it blooms. So here's the thing. I don't see a whole big color disbursement. These are heavy metals and opaque, which means they sit a little bit more. Oh, and I will look into the Artist Loft brand. So they are very pretty though, and they are nice and shiny. Let's do a little opacity test, shall we? Okay, so for this next section, I just decided to speed it up for time purposes, because what I did was I put 1 drop of liquid metals on my craft mat, and then I used just a wet paintbrush. I didn't dilute it down, but I wanted to go ahead and just see how well these layered, and you saw me there very quickly just shaking those back up because they do settle pretty quickly. So I layered them on top of each other, kind of just overlapping the colors too, because I wanted to see them blend. And most importantly, I wanted to see if the mica particles in the liquid metals would actually be thick enough that it would cover up the black rubber stamping. And what I found was that no, it is translucent enough, and those particles are fine enough that you can see what you're watercoloring over. So this was kind of important to me because I like to do this technique a lot. And if you're wondering, I used the My Favorite Things hybrid stamp pad because it is waterproof and I happen to like it quite a bit. So what I did notice though was that as these things settled out, they really look more concentrated. If you just drip them, they don't want to move around a whole lot. And for this last little bit, I decided to play with some Yupo paper. So Yupo is actually a non-porous polypropylene, and I wanted to see how they acted. And I used a little bit of what was on my brush and then dripped right to it, and then added some water here just to see how they spread around. And the colors are very, very vibrant on the Yupo. One of the reasons is because it's bright white. Most watercolor paper is kind of a yellowy color, with the exception of the Ranger. But here on the Yupo, because it is bright white, you get a great color saturation, a great pigment brightness. But as you can see here on the page, they're really not moving around a whole lot. And because they can't soak in, because polypropylene Yupo is non-porous, you just have to let it dry. So I wanted to get some like texture in there because it wasn't soaking in and it didn't look particularly interesting. So I tried a little bit of bubble wrap. Meh. Not super in love with that either. Doesn't hold the texture, kind of just, you know, bleeds right out. So I tried dabbing a little bit. And that took almost everything off of the top of it. So also not a great technique. And so then I tried a little more spritzy, drippy, and, you know, kind of swoosh it around a little bit. And you can see the microparticles kind of floating around in there, but it's just, I guess it's not very dynamic. So for me, using the Ken Oliver's liquid metals on the Yupo is kind of a little bit of a waste. And just take a look. So now that things are mostly dry, you can really see that shine and sparkle. These are definitely silver mica particles in a background color. Okay, so this is important to know that you're not getting pink sparkle and orange sparkle and yellow sparkle and purple sparkle. You are really kind of getting silver sparkle in a pigment. Now, the color down here where I kind of dragged it across, where I diluted it, I actually like that the best. I do, because it is a lot more subtle. And I like the fact that it looks more watercolory, but it's sparkly. It's almost as if I just did a traditional watercolor and then added a little sparkle on top. So at the end of the day, I'm kind of pulling away a few things, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera back around or make some comments before. So here's my takeaways just in the preliminary. 1, I like it better on watercolor paper and regular cardstock more than Yupo. The Yupo doesn't seem to highlight the sparkle as much, and of course it moves around a lot more. And you need some tooth for the sparkle to sit on for it to really show up. Makes sense, right? Number 2, the color set that I got of the liquid metals are all very pastel. They're very Eastery. Does that make sense? It's not a hard red. It's not a vibrant coral. This tangerine, they're all very soft colors, which is nice, but those have kind of limited uses. I might not use such a light color palette all the time. I have a tendency to like the brights. As I turn on my light, I like vibrant red. I like, you know, the kind of teal blue that kind of knocks your eyeballs out. So I'm sure he'll come out with more, but like this palette is only so-so for me. The third thing is that I like to use it with other wet watercolors like my Koi's or Dr. P.H. Martin's. I'll be playing with my Dr. P.H. Martin's in this because I like it when wet mixes with wet, and I like it when dry interacts with dry. Those have different interesting properties. So if what you want is that dry to wet, speckly, freckly, then you want it to be consistent. If you want everything to be wet, mixy, then you want that to be consistent. So I don't know the first precious metals. I don't have that set. I'd kind of like to see it. But again, my initial thought is I want my liquids to be liquids. I want my wets to be wets. I don't necessarily need them to commingle. Okay, crafty friends, I hope you enjoyed this overview and demo of the Precious Alloys palette of Ken Oliver's liquid metals. If you do, please like and subscribe, and I will be doing a follow-up on the other palette very soon. Thanks for watching, and have a crafty day.